Andy Murray has retired from tennis, or at least is in the process of retiring, because of a hip injury. And I would have thought that wouldn't have prompted me to do a vlog about it when it ties into mental health and everything like that. But core blimey, it has. Hello everyone, my name is Simon Miller. If you've never watched before, this is my vlog series where I do just chat about, well, all kind of events these days, but as it was based as the foundations, well, when I wanted to talk about mental health, anxiety, depression, all those life things, because I just feel like they should be more prevalent and more talked about than they are in 2018. That's what we're doing here. Thank you very much for joining me, old or new. I appreciate you all. I appreciate your faces. I appreciate your noses. I appreciate your mouths. Now, yeah, I listen to a lot of sporting radio throughout the day, and I like to keep up to date with all the sporting good, because I do. I like sport, blah, 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 not interesting or important. And this morning, Andy Murray came out, or during a press conference for the Australia Open, said that he doesn't think he's going to be able to continue at least past Wimbledon at the very best, because he's got a hip injury that he's been dealing with for the last years. And while he was saying these words, he broke down, he cried, clearly very, very emotional. And I will admit, by and large, the response that I've seen in the community that I hang out in there hasn't been that much backlash. It's mostly been, oh my gosh, isn't this terrible? Excuse me. Look at the emotion. You know, he's clearly struggling with this. But there were, and this is why I mentioned the sports radio stuff, on sports radio and on my Twitter feed, like, you know, I know that's not the be-all and end-all when it comes to the world, but it's still a voice and it can still be seen by the wrong person. So many people, but these people within these circles were saying, oh, I can't believe he's crying. Stuff like he's a celebrity, he's rich. It proves there's something else going on here. The worst one always. He should man up. He needs to be more of a man. And it's just, excuse me, I got something on my throat. I just don't get it. I just don't get it at all. Like, I understand that the stereotype, and one that was very prevalent sort of, I don't know, say 30 or so years ago, if not sooner, was that, you know, a man doesn't cry. And if a man shows his emotions, that he's weak. And look, if that's the way you want to live your life, that is completely cool. If I want to come, I don't live my life that way, but if I want to come on here and say I don't like crying, it makes me feel weak, that's cool to me. And if you feel that way, that's cool to you. But the real issue is when there's two things. A, when somebody pastes their feelings onto somebody else, that means Andy Murray can turn around. We'll just create Mannix. I don't want to say a name because it means like I'm implying something, but Mannix. If Mannix, you know, is able to say to Andy Murray, well, you're not allowed to cry, it goes to show there's something wrong, then Andy Murray can turn around and go, okay, well, there's something wrong with you for not crying. Like, that is how the world works. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. But the real issue with it is that if somebody else does see that is going through their own struggles and maybe dealing with their own problems and what it means to cry and what it means to be a man or whatever else, or, you know, just because you're rich and you've achieved a certain amount of your goals, you're not allowed to have mental health problems. I'm not saying that Andy Murray has mental health problems, but he's clearly going through an emotional moment, which will mentally take a lot to get past. You could even argue that him breaking down is a good thing because it's him getting it all out and now he knows it's out there and he hasn't got to worry about it anymore. But when other people see that, it can have a knock-on effect. And that's the thing that always pisses me off the most, because no one ever thinks about that. And that's why when I talk about how in 2018, I said 19, mental health is far better than it was, there is still this prevalent thing where people feel like, oh, I can just say whatever, you know, you can say whatever you want. I don't believe in censorship. I really, really don't. I want to make that clear. I feel like you should be able to say whatever you want, and in turn, anyone should be able to say what they want back to you within reason. Like, if it's racist or bigotry or insulting, then I think you have to take a look at yourself and go, well, why am I doing this to begin with? Like, there's never any excuse to be a racist or a bigot or an anti-Semite. There's just not. But when it comes to stuff like this, okay, you're allowed different opinions, but no one actually ever thinks about the knock-on effect that it could have. And that's when I get really, really mad. And also, who the flip cares if, not cares, but why do you have to be so vitriolic against somebody breaking down? I mean, if you look at Andy Murray's life, I don't know, I'm a tennis fan, but I know Andy Murray's existence, history, but I'm sure he probably started playing tennis when he was 6, 7 years old, and that's, I think he's, what, early 30s now, so let's say 25 years. So he's basically been playing tennis for 25 years. That's his life. That's all he's known. And when someone then tells him, oh, you can't play anymore because of this injury, then it's taken away from him. So not only does it deal with the fact, what am I going to do in the future? Not only am I not going to be able to achieve all the goals that I wanted to, but now I don't even get to make the choice. Somebody else is telling me, well, you can try, but you're not going to be able to do it. I think you're more within your rights to be emotional. You're more within your rights to cry. The fact that you do it in front of a public audience, it's just your emotions. And the other thing that really makes me go a bit crazy too, is that people say, oh, he can't cry. Why is he crying? Well, the fact he has that emotion and the fact that he has the ability to do that isn't that kind of the best piece of evidence that maybe that is a cool and okay way to react? The fact that's what his body is doing, like, you know, pulling away and chucking all the emotions out there for him to deal with it. Yes, I think it is, opposed to some peon. I am referring to someone specifically on the radio, but some peon on the radio station going, oh, there must be something wrong with him. That is such a terrible thing to say, and it just paints bad stereotypes. And again, if he can say it, he's allowed his opinion, I'm allowed to sit here and moan back at him. And he ever hears this, which he won't, he can come and moan back at me. That's cool. That's what I mean. No censorship. But I just find it nuts, because I think we've talked about this on the vlog before. If you want to cry, cry. If you don't want to cry, don't cry. If you get over things better by sitting in a room by yourself, do that. If you need friends, make sure you reach out to friends. There's no wrong or right with this. If anything, it should never be about your success or your monetary worth or whatever. It should just be about how you get through every single day and make sure you're happy by the end of it. Because as always, as hippie trippy as it sounds, that's all this is. That is all life is. We go on these weird journeys for around, 80 plus years, or if you're lucky, and you try and figure out ways to keep a smile on your face, to find worth, and to enjoy yourself. And there's always going to be bumps in the roads, and you should be able to deal with that as you see fit. And the fact that Andy Murray had to do it in front of the world, I'm sure was hard enough. And it's a classic, right? Sometimes you cry and you feel better. So yeah, I didn't actually think I'd be talking about this today, but it just blew my mind that kind of opinion is still out there, because I just don't get it. I honestly don't get it. And no one has to get me, and I don't have to get them either. Repeating myself, but I don't think it makes anyone less of a man, or I don't think there's anything wrong with you. I think you just have to take life as it comes. And it is like a, I don't want to say to go as far as saying it's like a bereavement, but I imagine it's the same kind of emotions that people go through, because when you lose a loved one, you have to teach yourself how to live without them. And that's why it's so hard, because it's an absolute. There's nothing you can do. And while I'm sure Andy Murray can still be involved in tennis or coach or do whatever he wants to do, he still now has to teach his brain that thing that he used to do, getting up, training, playing in big tournaments, doing interviews, press, whatever, is going to go away. And that is a struggle. It's like if somebody told me right now, Simon, you can't make videos anymore, or I'm recovering from my shoulder injury, but you can't wrestle anymore. I would struggle with it a lot. Like, I struggled with it enough over the last 6 months, just knowing I have to wait for something to recover. But when it's an absolute and it's the end, I think you need to have the respect and the admiration for one another to realize that people are going to have to process that, and they're going to go through some hard times. And that's why I do these vlogs. I know they don't get massive views or anything like that, but that's not why I do them. But I think having a support network, an understanding network, to the point where even if you don't understand what somebody's going through, at least you can offer them a bit of sympathy, offer them a shoulder to cry on, which again is what I always say. If you are feeling awful, there's telephone lines you can ring, you can talk to your doctor, you can talk to your friends, you can reach out to a loved one, and they will help you through it. And the reason these places exist is because everyone's going through them. Like, I saw a stat today, I think it's 1 in 4 people in the UK will go through a mental health episode. I can't remember the stats, but 1 in 4 is what they said over a year or something like that. And that's quite high, right? That's quite 25%. So, that's quite high. But I think it as bad and as much as, we need to make sure those 25% are getting the help, we also need to make sure the 75% are aware and doing what they can, because we should just all be supporting each other. I know that sounds like a lovey-dovey Candyland. It's like, oh, everyone loves each other, respects each other. Yeah, well, I think that would be nice. There's enough problems in the world that you can't control to begin with, without having to get some numpty telling you, oh, this guy's not allowed to cry. Of course you're allowed to cry. You're allowed to cry about anything. Even if you cry because you broke your pencil. All right, that's how you deal with stuff. And it's up to the society's decision to decide whether they want to hang out with you or not. That's it. If it's too much for someone, don't hang out with them. It doesn't make you a bad person. That's the real key. It doesn't make you a bad person. If we send out these vibes that crying does make you a bad person, if you then cry and you're already struggling with stuff or whatever it is, that's going to make you feel worse. And that's why it's important to watch what we say in that regard. I've got no problem having a debate and no problem people having different opinions, but I don't think you can just spout them off willy-nilly, because I will say this. If I know somebody is really struggling and me spatting off an opinion may push them too far, I'd rather keep my mouth shut. Again, that's just my opinion. You can tell me that I'm wrong. But yes, the other thing I wanted to talk about as well that I never got to, we'll do it now quickly, is that Piers Morgan did something similar the other day. And I get what Piers Morgan is. He's a troll machine, and he does it very well. It's hard to you know, if you don't get it, then you don't have to get it. But I think it's quite obvious to me, you know, he's the king of retweets and, you know, poking the bear, and he does it on purpose. But, you know, he was talking the other day how he thinks that... He was retweeting somebody else, I think, that worked on Coronation Street, but she did it in a very different way to how he did it, saying that he thinks some celebrities are coming out using mental health as almost... It's a fashionable thing. And I was just like, okay, well, so what? So what? If anything, the more people that talk about it, the better. And how do you know they haven't gone through mental health stuff? Mental health stuff doesn't have to be a massive breakdown. It can be waking up one day and going, I don't feel right today, and then going through a 24-hour period and going, I'm really struggling for some reason, but I don't know what it is. And the next day you get over it for some reason. That's a mental health problem. It's not as bad as what some people go through, but it still counts. So, yeah, I mean, if all celebrities come out and said, I've got mental health problems, even if 10% of them are lying and making up because they want it to be cool, okay. But if somebody likes that celebrity... and they go, oh, great, I can, you know, I have an affiliation with that. I can understand that may help them. I don't see why that's a problem. Like, if people are lying outright and it's causing issues, then yeah. But I think that's the kind of stuff that drags us back. And I think we all need to be far more understanding. And I understand why it's difficult to, you know, give people the benefit of the doubt. But maybe if we all started doing that, it would, you know, it would be better all around. I've been way too preachy this episode. It's never meant to be preachy, this thing. The problem is no one ever gets to the end of the video, right? So no one will hear me say this. But hey ho, that is my opinions. That is what I believe. Hopefully everybody who watches these videos knows I'm not a preacher or anything like that. And I am very much the loser guy that goes each to their own. But I am. Because if I don't give you the respect, I don't deserve the respect either. You know, if I want to live my life a certain way and you want to live yourself a different way, as long as we're both, you know, morally and, you know, doing the right thing, then we should be allowed to do it. Let's wrap it up. Thank you very much for watching. Like, share, subscribe, leave a comment below. You know all the YouTube stuff. I'm going to keep doing these. Only got one done this week just because of fallout from New Year, but we will get back to them next time. We're going to do one on Batman next week, which I promised, and also somebody sent me an email. I did see it. I'm going to do a vlog about that as well. That's very ambiguous. But, well, that's just what I've done. That's just what I've done. Anyway, look, have great weekends if you are watching this on Friday, and I'll talk to you again soon. Apologies for the coughing as well. I've got something in my throat, but I don't edit these, probably in this sense to my detriment. Yeah.